Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining our session here, Modernizing the Learner Experience through Digital Transformation. I'm Andreas Brockhaus. I'm the Executive Director of Online Innovation at the University of Washington School of Nursing. And presenting with me are Ash Bond, Director of Learning Technologies, and Brad Coston, Director of IT, all from the University of Washington School of Nursing. Today, we'll be discussing with you our digital transformation journey. We'll talk a little bit about the concept of digital transformation. We'll also look at some of the drivers and goals for our initiative. We'll talk about Salesforce, of course, and some other tools that are providing some of the foundation for what we're doing. And then look more closely at our first two phases of the initiative. Feel free to use the chat to ask questions, and we'll answer the questions at the end of the session. And we'll have some time, hopefully, to be able to get more in depth if you have some other questions at the end there. So let's jump right in. Thanks again for joining. Just to give you a little background of who are we coming from. We're from the University of Washington School of Nursing, as I mentioned before, with over about 600 undergrad and grad students and 16 degree programs and tracks. We have about 300 faculty and staff at the School of Nursing. Brad, Ash, and I are part of the Office of Technology, Learning, and Innovation at the School of Nursing. The UW has a central IT, learning technologies, and continuing education units. Many schools like ours have their own teams that may work in coordination with the central services, but aren't part of them. So these smaller teams can provide more customized support and services in a variety of areas. And so we're part of this smaller unit that's working in the School of Nursing itself. So what do we mean when we're talking about digital transformation? If you do a Google search for digital transformation, you'll find a ton of different descriptions of what it is and what it consists of. EDUCAUSE provides, I think, a really good one. Part of it's because it's focused on higher ed. And so as it says here, it's a series of deep coordinated cultural and workforce and technological shifts that enable new educational operating modes and transforms an institution's operations, strategic directions, and value proposition. So I think a real key word here is the transforming institutions' operations, because it means it's not just something that's incremental, but something that affects everything from top to bottom. I think it's also important to recognize that digital transformation doesn't necessarily have to be campus-wide. Depending on the type of institution that you're at, it can also be done in a smaller unit like ours. This also from EDUCAUSE as well too, and provides a nice little graphic to talk about the digital transformation journey. And you'll notice if you look at it now that it's actually it provides a little bit of a scale and try to thinking about how the transformation starts small. I mean, we start with digitization, which is really changing files from analog or physical to digital form. And we've been doing that for a long time, right? All of us have been, we're engaged in taking files that we would have been possibly paper, and now doing them on the online, or on technology. Though I'm sometimes surprised by how frequently still people use just paper. But anyway, we've been doing that for a long time. Next, we move to digitalization, which really starts looking at a bigger scale does a larger process, so something like a learning management system. Then finally to, of course, then the digital transformation, where it's really the biggest scale, where you're looking at the entire unit or institution. And I think, again, a key word here is thinking about the coordination, where the goal is to consider all the different operations in a unit or campus and coordinate how they all interconnect in a digital environment to enable new modes of operation and innovation. Here's a couple other little snippets of digital transformation definitions that I've found useful. Some of them from Salesforce, some are from other educational institutions that are actually doing digital transformation. The first one talks about how digital transformation is all about focusing on the customer, or in that case, of course, in higher education, focusing on the learner. Making the learner central in making the learner central is really important in terms of thinking about the impact of the change and how to make sure that everything's in the center, that everything starts and ends with the learner. Because what we're trying to do here is we want to be digital enablers of the student journey, not just those that are on campus, but all the learners who engage with us throughout their lifetime. We want to make the journey smooth. We don't want to throw in a bunch of roadblocks or challenges to make have that student journey be, and so make it as smooth as possible. And so on the last quote really emphasizes the importance of making sure this ecosystem you're developing is not only coordinated, but cohesive, that it makes sense to the learner as they engage with us. So who is doing digital transformation? This comes from 2020, and it shows that most institutions, if they're thinking about it in higher education, are either thinking about doing digital transformation or developing a strategy, and only about 13% are actually in a process of doing some major phases of digital transformation. So, but I suspect with the pandemic, with all of us working remotely, all of this, like everything else with the pandemic, is going to help be an accelerant, and that in a couple of years, those numbers obviously are going to shift a lot more to the far left. So with that, we're right off the bat. We're actually want to also, of course, want to engage you in some of this as well too, and we want to hear from you because they're always interested in seeing where people are, what people are, feedback is and what we're doing. So if you can go to PollEv, we're using Poll Everywhere, pollev.com/UWSON School of Nursing. So just UWSON, and we would love to be able to have you provide some feedback from your laptop or device on some of the things that we're looking at. So let me go ahead and full screen this one. So the first question is, well, what institution or organization are you from? So we want to say, oh, there's somebody who's traveled. We want to see who's traveled the farthest via Zoom to be with us. Just kind of get people going here. So for a lot of Pacific Northwesterners, oh, there we go. Now we're getting a little farther away. Ah, Montana, excellent. Welcome. A lot of Oregon folks. Pasco, excellent.
Welcome to our colleague from the Continuum College.
Yep. Oh, a couple of people from Pasco.
Yep.
Just a couple of minutes, and then we'll so just another minute or so. We've got other people, or that might be as many as want to answer possibly. We'll see. Okay, let's move to the next question. So where is your institution or unit in its digital transformation journey?
We may want to talk to the one who's completed a major phase.
We should get them in on this presentation.
Yeah, we may not.
So far, some of it's actually corresponding to the EDUCAUSE review, in terms of a little bit of starting, a lot of thinking about it, and a couple of except for there's more wishing we were doing digital transformation. So
looks like we're in good company.
Yeah, excellent. If you are doing digital transformation or could do digital transformation, since some of you wish you could, what would you hope to accomplish? This one takes a little bit more typing.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
That's great.
So far, this is aligning with EDUCAUSE IT initiatives.
And us as well.
And us,
yes,
for sure.
You will start seeing some of these themes as we go along as well as we talk about this. Exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do another minute here. I like the changing the paradigm of the learning and teaching. That's good. Anybody else want to add something?
Yeah, it's clear that all of our goals are aligned here.
Yeah,
Yep.
data-informed decisions. Yeah, that's great. Okay, thanks everyone for sharing. That was great. Thanks for participating in our poll everywhere. We've got one more poll coming a little bit later on as well too, so keep those laptops and phones handy. We head back to and I'm now going to pass the microphone to Ash.
Thanks, Andreas. Thanks for that. And I'm Ash, and hello, everyone. Nice to see you all out there. We're talking now about the digital transformation drivers at the school. And when we looked at this, we kind of had a look at our own systems, like our own business. How do we operate? How do we do things? And when we looked deeply at it, we saw a lot of the same things that came up in that poll. Fragmented and siloed data, some homegrown systems, some off the shelf, they're not integrated, they're not talking to each other. And it pretty much creates a fragmented kind of ecosystem that's not efficient. And quite frankly, it was starting to get in our way to adapt. It was starting to get in our way to chase new initiatives. And that lone wolf is pretty much sums it up. Next slide, please, Andreas. So we also had to do another internal look. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to reframe how we looked at what we do. Are we just an institution that confers a degree, confers continuing education, or are we something bigger? And we decided we're actually something bigger. We're an entity that wants to support the full enriched life of the nurse. We want to put the nurse at the center, and we want to support a full life cycle from prospective student and to beyond. Next slide, please, Andres. And so what are the goals as we're supporting these learners? What are our actual goals for this? Well, there's some interesting ones. We have some on the slide here. For our prospective students, we want to expand our recruitment, and actually we want to expand our diversity of recruitment. And most interesting for me right here is we want to expand the engagement of applicants, regardless if they come to our school. The likelihood is they're going to be a nurse somewhere, and we want to support that life, the full life of that nurse. For current learners, a lot of people touched on it in the survey. It's basically a better student experience. And we feel that it comes through with better communication and better online interactions. And then for post-grad learners, again, it's more learning opportunities, and then creating this broad supportive community around the nurse, keeping the nurse in the center and around their full life as a nurse. And with that, I will pass to Brad Coston to go over phases and approaches.
I know I do that when I muted my microphone. Thanks, Ash. Given those drivers and goals, there are two digital transformation projects that we're focusing on right now. Phase one is the upgrade of our continuing nursing education online learning and marketing platform. We just call that Project Indigo for short. It'll be replacing our aging learning management system and some loosely integrated marketing tools. The new system will better serve our learners, reduce costs, and hopefully turn around some declining revenues. The second phase we call Project Cerulean. This is about replacing our homegrown online admission system with a commercial product that would be more supportable and give us access to modern features. We have also identified potential future phases for digital transformation, focusing on marketing, human resources, DEI, and advancement. The common goal across all of these efforts is to share a common data platform to enable improved collaboration across the school. Next slide, Andreas. Our long-term expectation is that these projects will decrease expense and increase revenue, but change comes at a cost. The first cost is from the fact that we're working with technologies that are new to us. So our first step was to hire a consultant. Then we also had to pull together a project team. Some of this was done by pulling from existing staff, but we also expanded our capacity by bringing in several temporary staff, including a project manager, an operations manager, and 2 part-time grad developers. These projects also involve purchasing and licensing several new technology platforms such as Salesforce, Canvas, and a number of WordPress plugins. And finally, there's a lot of data to migrate, such as our existing course content, records of CE credits already earned, and data used for marketing to learners. All of that has a high staff cost to perform those migrations. Next slide, Andreas. This is our project schedule. You can see here that we began major work on these projects last summer, and in the fall, we filled out our project team. In the winter, we moved our first batch of data into Salesforce and purchased the components for the web and learning platforms. This quarter, we're getting ready to start our first Pardot marketing campaign and beginning to modernize our student admissions system. This summer, we expect the first version of the C&E learning platform to go online and to begin accepting applications with our new enrollment platform. Then we will begin focusing on our digital transformation efforts on additional areas around the school with the support of a new full-time Salesforce administrator. Back to you, Andreas.
Okay, back to the polls. Back to the, again, UW School of Nursing polls there. So let me go on to our next one is, hold on one second, let me move this stuff out of the way here. So it's just kind of a fun question. So what does CRM stand for? Maybe I should not show responses. We'll just do that. Well, don't want to be influenced. Got a couple more results here.
And a handy link has been provided in the chat to the polls. Quick link.
Thank you. Okay, let's show the responses.
Oh, good. Somebody answered cat's rule.
Yes, of course. Obviously, there must be a cat person out there somewhere.
We couldn't fool this group.
No, they're pretty sharp.
Yeah. What's your experience with using Salesforce as your CRM? This slide takes a little longer to read through. What, just another little bit. Everybody had a chance to put in their answers? That's really interesting. It's all over the map. Some people have been using Salesforce for a while, but most people have been using, they're using a different CRM product, or obviously just a homegrown, similar to what we would have been using, or considering something along those lines. So it's quite a, at least from the folks in the audience here, it's all over the map in some ways. Excellent. Obviously, you got this one. It's most people knew this was or probably everybody knew that this was customer relationship management for higher ed. CRM stands for customer relationship management. And again, this is something that has been in private business for quite a while, and is starting to obviously move much more in higher education in the recent years. But really, the idea behind it is that you're gathering data from lots of different sources and communication channels to be able to improve these things that we've got listed here, from marketing to student engagement, to customer service and revenue as well. So why did we pick Salesforce? This is one of the reasons, is that you can see Salesforce as a CRM. It's the #1 CRM in the world in terms of market share. And one of the things as we're thinking forward of doing in our digital transformation journey is we want to make sure that we're going with it as much as possible, going with an industry standard, something that we know that will be around for a while, something that we can continue to build on. We also have some colleagues and units on our campus who are using Salesforce, and that's been really helpful as well too, because some of them have done a few years back. They started going with Salesforce, and we've been able to use them to be able to, as a sounding board, to be able to talk to them about some of what their experience has been in implementing Salesforce or applications that they've had at Salesforce. In fact, we created a community of practice around Salesforce on campus that we anticipate will grow larger as more folks maybe start thinking about Salesforce or other CRM like Salesforce, and be able to have discussions around that. So Salesforce for higher education. Salesforce initially was all focused on business, private business, business to business kind of things, but they have in the recent years focused more on education and developed what they call the Education Data Architecture, or EDA platform. And this is one where it's focused on, there's a section that goes for K through 12, as well as a section for higher education. And this one has, you can see that there's a lot of different integration points that you can all go into the Salesforce platform to be able to provide that 360-degree view of students as much as possible. So I like throwing wanted to throw this graph in there as well too, because this is a relationship diagram of EDA, very complicated to look at. It shows both the complexity of a student's educational journey, as well as the ability of Salesforce to be able to capture this data and to think about it, and points to, of course, also some of the complexity of configuring Salesforce is you have to start thinking through a lot of these different types of relationships and how they're connected, and some of those things as well too, to be able to, again, start capturing the complete picture of a student or the learner. I always like being able to show, this, like, I always find it helpful to have a screenshot of a particular platform to get a bit idea of what the interface might look like. Some of you who are obviously using Salesforce might be already very familiar with this, but especially after seeing that last slide, you can see there, when you look at this, there's a lot of familiar navigation tabs such as courses, terms, and et cetera, that has a bunch that corresponds to the academic environment that we're in. I also wanted to mention that Salesforce actually does provide a large number of free self-paced online training modules on their Trailhead site. You can actually get an EDA sandbox to experiment with if you're interested. They often preload it with some information in there so that you can actually work with live or with actual data in there to be able to see how that works. It's been very useful for both training and to get a better idea of how this works. And we've talked a little bit about marketing. We have picked Pardot as our marketing automation platform. And one of the reasons that we did that is, but one of the main reasons, it's a native Salesforce app. Salesforce provides a number of different apps that you can actually use. That some of them are at cost, and Pardot is a cost. Some of them are free or are very low cost. And again, the reason we wanted to use Pardot is that we needed to really up our marketing game. We needed to be able to do a lot more in terms of segmenting, tracking where people go, links people click on, all those different types of things, seeing what the return of investment is on these things as well too. And Pardot is allowing us to be able to do that in a much more robust way. So now I'm going to pass it over to Ash.
Thanks, Andreas. So now's a good time to dig into a case study to see how this is actually playing out in our environment, and perhaps even bedazzle you, I don't know, or dazzle you. Again, here we have the nurse at the center, and we're using CNE, our continuing nursing education unit, as a part of this case study. And I know a lot of you are familiar with CE, but just as a background, nurses need credit to keep their licensure. And our CNE unit has just a really long and proud tradition of offering CE credit to the nursing community. Traditionally, they've been doing it in a live conference format with some asynchronous and some hybrid. It's important to note in recent years, there's been a downward trend on attendance at live conferences. It was part of the driver on that. Please continue, next slide. So what are our goals what are our transformation goals? And, there's actually big ones. There's engagement, there's, increased community for the nursing. What we're doing here is we're reducing it down to more like operational or structural goals. And even those are really huge, but we're trying to continue to reduce it down just for this group here. And it's really, we're trying to gain modularity and nimbleness. Next slide. And so modularity, what does this mean? We want to be able to quickly swap out best in show. Currently, C&E has a bulk of the work they do and how they operate is working within this monolithic vendor-provided system. It's not adaptable. And if we want to change something or there's some new area, we can't do it very quickly. This graphic right here is what we're moving forward with the integration on our C&E. We've called this this configuration many names. It's been hub and spoke. I think we landed on space station. I like that one. That's good. And in this, you can see Salesforce is our data backbone. It's our foundation. And then we layer on top of that. And in the C&E model, we're layering 2 LMSs, Canvas and LearnDash. We're also adding WooCommerce. Multiple WordPress plugins are at our beck and call if we want them. And most importantly, if something cool new shows up, we can swap it out. We can either add it or swap it out. This is the goal. We don't have to spend 12 months in a planning committee to decide the next massive system, monolithic system we're going to deploy. Next slide, please. And this hopefully will get us to the next goal, which is nimbleness. And, in the modern environment, speed's important. Yeah, we believe speed is important. And when we talk about nimbleness, we want to increase our speed, not just of daily business, but of chasing new initiatives. Like we feel we have visions, and if we're nimble enough, we can actually chase them to see if they bear fruit. This slide kind of goes over old, new, and then gains. This is in process now. I'm not going to dig into all of them. I will have her call out eye content to Pardot, because this is a good example of kind of what we're moving from to, hopefully. So with eye contact, we have a system, reporting was hard, getting numbers were hard, analytics were rudimentary. So a lot of the messaging that would go out is kind of a master blast. So regardless if you were interested in pediatric nursing or not, you were getting information about it. With Pardot, the move to Pardot, we really hope to refine the tip of our marketing, like really laser focus it. So we're tailoring our marketing and our communication. So when the nurse gets the email from C&E, they want to get it because it's something they're interested in. And next slide, please. We're adding the slide because it actually it was an interesting homework, interesting experience for us. Again, with the mindset that the nurse, the full life of the nurse is at the center of what we're doing. So how does that nurse map through C&E to get the value that they're searching? And they're coming at us in different ways. Some want live events still, some want, asynchronous. So we went through this user journey mapping to really kind of understand how our users were getting it and making sure that we weren't making it difficult or cumbersome for them to get value from us. And with that, I will pass to Brad to go over his case study. You're on mute.
Sorry, spring is sprung over here, and you guys really don't want to hear me coughing. But that's definitely a danger. That was Project Indigo. Thanks for that description of it, Ash. I'm going to talk about Project Cerulean, which that's our project about modernizing our existing online admission system. Our existing system is a custom web application that was developed as a reaction to identified needs and maintained by an in-house full-time developer. This really proved to be a very expensive way to buy an application. And because development was dependent on that one person, the pace of rolling out new features and bug fixes was slow. But this was a necessary first step for us. Now our goals include reducing the cost of the system and refocusing on the student experience, keeping the nurse at the center with improved learning engagement from first contact through the admission process, through the student experience, into their career, and all the way post-retirement. Next slide, please. Sorry, my slides didn't advance. Here we go. This is our project schedule. The key to developing this timeline was to align it with our student admission cycle. Once we identified the vendor to partner with, and we got a time estimate, we looked at our student enrollment cycle and we determined what upcoming cycle our schedule fit into. Here's the schedule we settled on with work began at the end of this last winter quarter, and we expect it to wrap up in July in time for the beginning of our fall enrollment cycle on the 1st of August. Next slide, please. So these are the biggest challenges that we've encountered so far with these two projects. The biggest challenge has been the legacy data. The prior system was not built to enforce good data hygiene or to support portability of data. As a result, we're finding that much of the data is not well structured and has proven difficult to bring forward. There's also a strong desire by the existing team to leave no data behind, and we're having to weigh that against the potential value of that data. Another challenge is that our team has no experience with Salesforce or this type of multi-system integration. As a result, they're learning as they go, and we're supporting them with training resources. Also, we have multiple project phases under development simultaneously in the same instance of Salesforce. This requires careful coordination and means that the core project team has to meet several times a week to keep track of what's going on. Next slide, please. Our next steps include establishing a robust support infrastructure to support the adoption of Salesforce across the school. This will include the hiring of a full-time Salesforce administrator, developing Salesforce leads for each team within the school, and establishing governance to keep it all coordinated. We'll also be hiring a specialist to better support marketing activities. And of course, we need to fully launch projects Indigo and Cerulean and shut down the legacy systems. But this won't be the end. We expect to continue rolling out Salesforce to more and more units next year and to continue to mature and evolve the systems we're building today. Next slide, please. In conclusion, one of the most difficult things we had to overcome was that people wanted to recreate what they were already doing and continue using the same data, the same forms, the same communication strategies, etc. This mindset slowed the project down and made it hard for people to think about how to change. So from this experience, the biggest piece of advice we want to pass along to you is, don't let the past determine your digital transformation future. Questions?
Thoughts?
I have a quick, we actually have our project manager, Emily Rose, is in the audience here. I just want to shout out, she was a very strong lead on these projects, so just saying hi.
Hello. Great job, guys.
Thanks, Emily. Does anyone have any questions or anything that particularly caught their interest? I see Jody in the chat is asking, have you actually started using this? We are still in the process of building it. We are starting to go live with the first, the first fruit that this will bear here this spring, which is, we hope to be launching our first marketing campaign using Pardot within Salesforce, leveraging the data that we have been able to move over.
So we hope to have that. We hope to have that by the end of April, or at least near the end of April, beginning of May, so that we can then make the proof of concept and make that campaign ready to go. So yeah, it's and then hopefully after that things will accelerate faster.
I see Lisa in the chat is saying, what are your next projects? What is your decision framework for projects? Do you want to take that, Andreas?
Our decision frameworks are kind of a, it's an interesting concept. So we're going to be moving towards the marketing and communication folks next, because they are going to be key in some ways to being able to help be a central marketing hub for the School of Nursing. So that's, and so that we've already reached out to them and started getting them going and thinking about that as well too. They are also hiring another position. So again, this is where this starts making the changes. They're hiring a marketing specialist that also is a specialist in both Pardot and Salesforce as well too, to be able to use some of this information and be able to build from that. And that position will be hired most likely in a couple of months, maybe beginning of summer, and get that position as well too. So, and some of it is we provide, we obviously have had, as more people become familiar with Salesforce throughout and the concept of digital transformation, there's a lot more interest that has been perking up as well too. And so sometimes it's a matter of just simply saying this is available as a resource. This is something that might work really well. And because we're a unit within a larger, academic campus, it could add some complication, because sometimes what happens is that they're using, like, so for instance, advancement is using an entire different system that may or may not, they don't know if it has to integrate with Salesforce or some of those things, or it could integrate, but then it'd be another project as well. So that adds some complexity in that as well too. But so that in terms of decision framework, I don't know that we have a real formal framework in a sense of like doing this and that, but we do have we've had at least clear pathway for the first 3 or 4, and we've had other folks who are like with our Center for Anti-Racism has already been found. The whole concept is that when you talk about the student or the learner at the center, found a lot of opportunities to think about how that can be captured as well too, to be able to make sure that we are addressing DEI needs and addressing the students' concerns and some of those things as well.
Yeah, and addressing the decision framework for the next projects, I'd also just like to add that one of the ways that we've been successful in the past and plan to continue to be successful driving change in the future is to look for willing partners. So the departments that we've listed here are other departments in the school that have seen what we're doing. They're aware of our past track record with driving the school in the future, and they're interested in becoming aligned with our project goals. So it's, we really focus on bringing these upgrades and modernizations to people who are interested and willing to partner with us on them.
Do you want me to read the next question out?
Go for it.
There's quite a clear, there's quite a clear and short change process for the tech. This is true. How are the people and processes coping with the timeline and the shift? Can you say any more about the change management side of this? I might have a piece of this, but I'll let you guys start.
I think we all have a.
Yeah, we all have a little piece of it.
Go for it, Ash.
Well, I think with Indigo, we're still in process of it, but shifting the scope, and that's more on the person side. There's the technical side. I think we have an aggressive timeline with what we're doing. On the person side, there's processes and ways of doing business that are entrenched, that are hardcore and entrenched in the environment. I don't think we have like a process way of dealing with that, but we have brought the teams together, and now they're actually part of the migration and part of the solution. And I think that piece has helped shift the mindset, having the active participation. On the technical side, somebody else, Brad, feel free to jump in there.
Yeah, so on the technical side, of course, the IT team changes what we do. And we try not to, we try hard to make the changes that we are going through something that our users appreciate. We try not to inflict our change on our users. So
I might want to add just one quick thing too, like dealing with your technical team as well and our learning technologies team. I think as being part of the larger office, the technology innovation, the whole thing, the whole shebang, there's kind of an esprit de corps in that group, which is change positive. It's not necessarily, and I think we benefit from that. Like that's part of the spirit of the group is we expect change. We will move towards it. Some of us are very excited about it. I think it helps us.
Right. That's one of the advantages that we have is we've established, under our Office of Learning under our Office of Innovation, Learning, and
Technology.
Thank you. I knew technology had to be there somewhere. We have several teams that are all aligned around similar efforts around change. We have a few techniques that we use to get our customers aligned with change. And these include really advocating the advantages of the change, making sure that we provide lightweight support for the change, and providing some efficacy for the users, making sure that we have information out there so that they feel that they can be successful with the change.
Well, and I think that a lot of this starts at the top. So I think you need to have champions, and the leader of the OTLI is a real champion and someone who can really keep things on track and keep things. And I think it's just important to recognize the importance of leadership in getting these things done as well too, that everybody's aligned and working towards that. And I'd also want to say that it's also important having an embedded champion. We talked about Emily here as well too, is someone who is part of CNE, who has and really brings a level of expertise to this that has been able to help foster change management within the groups themselves. And I think that's been a real key as well too, is just making sure you have the right folks in there and being champions in that as well.
I almost want to ask questions of the audience who are doing Salesforce, but I'm going to hold on that. But I am curious.
Well, I would love to hear from anybody who's done the Salesforce implementation. What are some lessons you might have learned, or things that you have found that have been useful, that might be useful as well to other folks here in the audience?
And for the person who said that they've completed one, would be really interested to hear how your challenges align with ours, and if you have any advice.
No one's willing to speak up? Trade secrets. Okay. Nicole with the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. They're just starting their Salesforce development now.
That's excellent. So are you using, so they're, and what was the unit, Nicole, what part of the unit are you from?
With the Office of Online Education. And so we have a course development side or team and use the Agile Accelerator for that portion. But I manage a team of embedded instructional technologists that provide faculty support. So my instance of it is really more the CRM side of the house and self-service front-facing for faculty is how we intend to implement Salesforce.
Interesting.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. How's it going so far?
We're going to try to do our rollout in probably summer and then really kick off in fall. And I think what we're working through the configurations now, and it's almost done. I think our challenge is it's a major shift for our university. We're one of few units that use it. I think our registrar team utilizes it. So it's the communications and kind of what we want to garner from them as we launch. I think one of the things my team has worked on is some self-assessments for faculty on just their, experience with online learning in general. And so that's where we are. Is like, how can we incentivize them to take the self-assessments that will give us the baseline information we need to really make it a robust system?
Great. Any other questions or comments? not, we can also end 5 minutes early if we wanted to. What do you think, folks? Ash, Brad?
Well, be sure to use the link down there and tell us what you thought of the presentation. And I think is there a way for people to get a hold of us if they have other questions or want to offer us any advice on our next phases?
Yeah, we should put it, that's a good, we should have put something on the slide, or like our last ones here. I didn't think about that part of it, our emails. But yes, we're absolutely happy to have, if you have other questions or other things, we're happy to provide some additional information as well too. So I don't know how we do that.
I put it in the chat.
You put it in the chat. Okay, that sounds great. And I'm gonna stop sharing, and that looks great. Did we answer all the questions, by the way?
Yeah, I think we hit all the questions in the chat.
Great, thank you. Well, thanks everyone. It's great seeing everybody here. So thanks so much for coming and joining us today.
Take care.
Bye.
Well done, you three. Thanks for representing and presenting here. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording now.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Tim.